Do you think Black Phillip is just a fictional character from a horror film? What if I told you the chilling truth behind this iconic goat has been deliberately obscured, hidden in fragments across centuries of folklore, historical records, and unexplained phenomena? What began as an investigation into cinematic inspiration revealed something far more disturbing, a pattern spanning centuries, connecting seemingly unrelated incidents through one dark, recurring presence. The story begins long before Robert Eggers conceived his 2015 film, The Witch. The roots stretch back to 17th century New England, where the first documented mention of a distinctive black goat appears in the personal journals of William Bradford, governor of Plymouth Colony. In entries dated October 1637, conveniently omitted from published collections, Bradford describes a troubling incident involving a farmer named Thomas Putnam, who acquired a most peculiar black buck goat with horns uncommonly formed. Within 3 months of the animal's arrival, Putnam's wife and 2 children were dead of an undiagnosed wasting illness. Putnam himself was found hanging from the same tree where he had first tethered the animal. The goat disappeared. Colonial records show 7 similar incidents between 1638 and 1651 across Massachusetts Bay Colony. Each followed the same pattern: the acquisition of a distinctive black male goat, followed by inexplicable deaths or disappearances, ending with the animal vanishing without trace. What's particularly notable is how official records of these cases were systematically altered or destroyed during the cataloging initiatives of the early 1900s. Why? The trail goes cold until February 1692, when the Salem witch trials begin. What most historical accounts fail to mention is that multiple accused witches specifically described a black goat that would appear at night, speaking to them in a man's voice, deep and compelling. Court records show at least 11 separate testimonies mentioning this animal. Testimonies sealed by colonial authorities and only partially recovered during an archive restoration in 1973. These documents remained restricted until 2001, when historian Abigail Mathers gained limited access. Her subsequent manuscript, The Black Goat of Salem Woods, was never published. Mathers disappeared 2 weeks after submitting her final draft to Burlington University Press in September 2002. The publisher's offices experienced a small fire that same night. The manuscript was never recovered. Across the Atlantic, similar accounts surfaced in isolated rural communities. In the remote village of Blackton in Derbyshire, England, parish records from 1721 describe a peculiar trial involving a black goat that allegedly stood upright on hind legs and spoke with human tongue to a shepherd named William Howell. What happened to Howell? Records show he was committed to an asylum after killing his entire family, claiming they had been replaced by things wearing their skins. The goat once again vanished. 4 similar cases appeared across northern England between 1721 and 1742. All records were subsequently lost in church fires. The pattern continues. In 1823, a French anthropologist named Jean-Baptiste Fourier documented folk beliefs in remote alpine villages where locals refused to raise black male goats, believing them to be vessels for an entity they called le bouc noir, the black goat. Fourier's notes describe a creature that could walk as a man and whisper promises of wealth and power to those who would feed it blood. His complete findings, originally over 200 pages, were reduced to a single footnote in published academic texts. The remaining documents vanished from the Sorbonne archives in 1888. No explanation was ever provided for their disappearance. The 19th century brings us to Nova Scotia, where a series of unexplained deaths rocked the isolated community of Tancook Island in 1851. 5 families were found slaughtered in a single night, their blood used to paint an unusual symbol on each door, a symbol later identified as matching ancient pictographs found in cave systems across Europe. The only survivor, a child named Mary Dawson, described seeing a black goat walking on 2 legs between the houses. When asked what the creature was doing, she replied simply, "Choosing." Mary died 3 days later. Cause of death, unknown. Her testimony was documented by local constable James Harrow, whose report was filed with provincial authorities in Halifax. This report was subsequently classified and sealed until 1967, when portions were released under the Canadian Historical Document Preservation Act. 3 pages remained redacted. The complete file disappeared from the National Archives in 1972. The connection between these events remained unnoticed, scattered across different countries, different eras, different archives. No single researcher had access to the full pattern until now. In 1897, Aleister Crowley, the notorious occultist, referenced an entity called the Black One of the Woods in private correspondence with members of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Crowley described attempting to summon this being, which he believed could grant knowledge beyond mortal comprehension. The ritual required a black male goat and 5 human sacrifices. While no evidence exists that Crowley completed this ritual, he abruptly abandoned his interest in the entity, refusing to discuss it further. In a letter dated November 1901, he wrote, "Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. Some entities, once invited, cannot be banished. I will speak no more of the Black One." Crowley died in 1947. His personal journals for the period between October 1901 and March 1902 are the only volumes missing from his otherwise meticulously preserved records. The early 20th century brought more incidents, more connections. In 1919, a small farming community in rural Vermont experienced a series of child disappearances. 6 children vanished over 3 months. The last child to disappear, 8-year-old Joseph Carver, was found wandering in the woods 3 days after his disappearance. He spoke of the Goat Man, who had taken the other children below the old tree. Despite extensive searching, no trace of the other children was ever found. Joseph never spoke again. He died in the Vermont State Asylum in 1967, having spent 48 years in complete silence. The attending physician noted that Joseph would only react to one stimulus, the sight of a goat. Any goat would cause him to scream uncontrollably until sedated. His medical records were lost during an administrative transition in 1972. What connects these incidents across centuries? What explains the similar patterns, the systematic disappearance of records, the institutional silence? Coincidence cannot account for such consistent repetition. The trail continues. In 1947, noted folklore researcher Margaret Murray published The God of the Witches, exploring pagan worship across Europe. Her original manuscript contained a chapter titled The Black Phillip Manifestation, a chapter removed before publication at the insistence of her publisher. Murray's private papers, donated to Cambridge University after her death, included notes on this excised material. These notes referenced a being that could shift between goat and man, appearing throughout history to collect payment in blood for wishes granted. Murray's notes included detailed accounts matching our timeline: the Plymouth Colony incidents, the Salem testimonies, the English cases, the Nova Scotia murders. She had discovered the pattern. Her collection was catalogued in 1978. By 1980, the folder containing these specific notes had vanished from the archive. In 1953, a little-known incident occurred in the small town of Gloucester, Massachusetts. A local farmer named Henry Parsons reported that his black goat had begun standing on its hind legs when unobserved, only dropping to all fours when humans entered the barn. After installing a crude camera system, Parsons captured a single photograph of the animal upright. The photograph, submitted to local authorities, shows a blurry image of what appears to be a goat-like figure standing against a barn wall. 3 days after reporting the incident, Parsons' farm burned to the ground. His body was never found. The photograph disappeared from police evidence. The 1960s and 70s bring us to the counterculture movement, where occult interests flourished. In 1972, a commune in rural Oregon called Heaven's Meadow was found abandoned, its 27 members missing. The only clue was a journal belonging to the group's leader, David Keller, describing their intention to open the gate for the Horned One through ritual sacrifice. The final entry, dated July 7, 1972, reads simply, "He is coming. The Black One walks tonight." FBI investigation found traces of human blood throughout the commune's main hall. No bodies were ever recovered. The case remains officially unsolved, classified as a mass suicide despite the absence of remains. The investigation files, originally over 200 pages, were reduced to a 12-page summary before being archived. The complete files were allegedly destroyed in a records purge in 1994. The pattern continues into the digital age. In 1998, an anonymous document began circulating on early internet forums titled The Black Goat Chronicles. It contained detailed accounts of historical appearances of an entity matching our subject, including many incidents documented here, along with dozens more previously unknown cases. The document included coordinates for locations where the entity had allegedly manifested. Within weeks, the document disappeared from every server. Users who had downloaded copies reported their files corrupted or missing. Those who attempted to repost the information described systematic harassment, account hacking, and in 3 verified cases, home break-ins where their computers were destroyed or stolen. By 2005, no complete copy of the Black Goat Chronicles was known to exist. Only fragments remained, preserved in quotations on defunct message boards and cached pages. Then came The Witch in 2015, Robert Eggers' acclaimed horror film featuring Black Phillip, a goat who is revealed to be Satan in disguise. The film was praised for its historical authenticity and attention to detail. What few people know is that Eggers' original inspiration came from historical documents he discovered while researching New England folklore, documents that have since vanished from the archives where he viewed them. In a never-published interview with film journalist Rebecca Torres in 2016, Eggers described finding disturbing accounts of a black goat figure appearing throughout colonial New England history. When Torres attempted to verify these sources, she found no trace of the documents Eggers had described. Her follow-up questions to Eggers went unanswered. The interview was scheduled for publication in Film Comment magazine's October 2016 issue, but was pulled days before printing. Torres left journalism shortly afterward. Her research materials, including recorded interviews with Eggers, were lost when her apartment was burglarized in December 2016. Nothing was taken except her computer and research files. The most disturbing chapter in this story begins in 2018, when production started on a documentary tentatively titled Beyond Black Phillip, The True History. Director Michael Cavendish and producer Lisa Wheaton began compiling historical evidence of the Black Phillip phenomenon, interviewing historians, folklorists, and descendants of families connected to historical incidents. 3 months into production, funding was unexpectedly withdrawn. Their production company experienced a catastrophic server failure, losing most of their footage. Wheaton's research files disappeared during a flight between Boston and New York. Cavendish reported being followed by a tall figure in dark clothing. He installed security cameras at his home in April 2019. On May 8, 2019, those cameras captured footage of what appears to be a goat-like figure standing on 2 legs outside Cavendish's bedroom window at 3:17 a.m. At 3:19 a.m., the cameras went dead. Cavendish was reported missing the next morning when he failed to arrive for a scheduled meeting. He has not been seen since. The security footage was uploaded to a private server before his disappearance. That server crashed within hours, but not before 3 independent researchers downloaded copies. All 3 copies show the same degradation. The final 2 minutes of footage are corrupted in identical patterns, something digital forensics experts have stated is technically impossible without deliberate manipulation. What happened to Michael Cavendish? Official reports list him as a missing person. The investigation remains open but inactive due to lack of leads. In January 2020, an anonymous package arrived at the University of Massachusetts Folklore Department. It contained fragments of what appeared to be Cavendish's research, along with new material from unknown sources. The package included hundreds of pages documenting Black Phillip manifestations across history, with patterns matching those we've outlined here. Dr. Eleanor Marsh, head of the Folklore Department, began cataloging these materials. In March 2020, she reported receiving threatening phone calls from an unidentified caller with a voice like gravel being crushed. In April, she discovered a black goat standing in her backyard in the middle of the night, watching the house. On May 8, 2020, exactly 1 year after Cavendish's disappearance, Dr. Marsh's home burned to the ground. Her body was recovered, but the research materials were completely destroyed. Fire investigators found no evidence of arson, attributing the blaze to electrical failure. The pattern continues. The silencing continues. What explains this centuries-long phenomenon? What connects these incidents across time and space? And why do those who investigate too deeply vanish or die under mysterious circumstances? Some scholars have suggested we're seeing evidence of a coordinated psychological operation, a manufactured myth perpetuated by some unknown organization. Others propose a mimetic explanation, a self-replicating idea that somehow manifests in reality through collective belief. Still others suggest something more ancient and terrible, that the entity known as Black Phillip is real, has always been real, moving through human history like a shadow, leaving blood and silence in its wake. Consider this. Every major incident in this timeline occurs in 17-year cycles. Salem, 1692, Derbyshire, 1721, with a 12-year gap. The Alpine cases, 1823. Tancook Island, 1851. Vermont disappearances, 1919. Gloucester, 1953. Heaven's Meadow, 1972. The Black Goat Chronicles, 1998. Cavendish's disappearance and Marsh's death, 2019 to 2020. The pattern suggests the next manifestation cycle will begin in 2037, but patterns can be broken. Cycles can accelerate. There's evidence the cycle is already changing. Since 2020, reports of black goat sightings have increased exponentially across North America, Europe, and Australia. Images appear on social media, only to be deleted hours later. Witnesses describe the same details: unusual height, occasional bipedal movement, eyes that reflect red in darkness. In December 2021, a Reddit user posted security camera footage showing what appeared to be a large black goat standing upright beside a rural mailbox. The post received thousands of views before being removed by moderators for violating community guidelines. The user's account was deleted. Attempts to contact them through alternative means revealed their email address no longer existed. In March 2022, hikers in the White Mountains of New Hampshire reported finding a clearing containing a crude altar surrounded by animal bones. At the center of the altar was a freshly severed goat's head, black with unusual horn formations. When park rangers returned to the location the following day, no trace of the altar or remains could be found. The hikers' photographs shared with local news showed significant digital corruption, rendering them unpublishable. In August 2022, an anonymous source leaked documents allegedly from the FBI's Unexplained Phenomena Division, detailing 27 separate incidents between 2020 and 2022 involving bipedal caprine entities. The documents referenced a classified operation called Gothird, tasked with monitoring and containing information about these manifestations. Within hours of appearing online, the documents were removed under government request. Digital security experts noted the unusual thoroughness of the removal, with no cached copies remaining anywhere on the internet. The leak was subsequently dismissed as an elaborate hoax. In October 2023, 3 children in suburban Colorado reported encounters with a goat man who spoke to them near an abandoned construction site. Each child, interviewed separately, described the entity offering them anything they wanted in exchange for bringing others to meet him. The children's parents discovered matching symbols drawn in their school books, symbols matching those found at the Tancook Island murder scene in 1851. Child Protective Services investigated possible abuse. The case was closed after finding no evidence of parental misconduct. The similarity of the children's accounts was attributed to peer influence and suggestion. 2 of the children were subsequently enrolled in therapy. The third child, 10-year-old Marcus Delaney, disappeared on December 17, 2023. Despite extensive searches, no trace of him has been found. In his bedroom, investigators discovered a crude drawing showing a black goat-like figure standing on two legs. Written below in childish handwriting, "He says I can live deliciously." The phrase, "live deliciously," the exact words spoken by Black Phillip in Eggers' film. The investigation remains open. In April 2024, a data breach at a major university's historical archive revealed the existence of a restricted collection codenamed Project Capricorn. The breach exposed a catalog of over 300 historical documents relating to Black Phillip manifestations, many matching incidents in our timeline. The catalog included locations of physical documents held in secure storage at facilities across North America and Europe. Within 24 hours, the breach was contained. The catalog vanished from the internet. The university issued a statement denying the existence of Project Capricorn, attributing the leak to a student hoax. 1 week later, 3 separate secure storage facilities experienced break-ins. Nothing of conventional value was taken. The specific contents of the compromised areas remain undisclosed. In June 2024, a small independent publishing house announced plans to release the Black Phillip Dossier, a comprehensive collection of historical accounts compiled by anonymous researchers. Pre-orders reached unprecedented numbers for the specialized publisher. 2 days before the scheduled printing, the publishing house experienced a catastrophic fire that destroyed their premises and all digital backups of the manuscript. No physical copies of the Black Phillip Dossier exist. The publisher has declined to pursue the project further. In September 2024, unusual black goat sightings were reported simultaneously in 17 different countries across 6 continents. In each case, witnesses described the same distinctive features: unusual size, malformed horns, occasional bipedal movement. Several witnesses reported hearing whispered voices after their encounters, urging them to open the way and prepare for his coming. Conventional explanation: mass hysteria triggered by social media sharing. Yet something more disturbing may be happening. The pattern is accelerating. The 17-year cycle appears to be collapsing. The manifestations are increasing in frequency and geographic spread. Why now? What has changed? Some researchers point to Robert Eggers' film as an unintentional catalyst. By bringing Black Phillip into popular consciousness, did it somehow strengthen the entity's connection to our world? Others suggest climate change and environmental disruption have weakened barriers between dimensions, allowing increased manifestation. Still others propose a more terrifying possibility: that the entity has always moved in cycles of increasing activity, culminating in some larger manifestation that historical records have been systematically erased to hide. What if previous cycle culminations resulted in mass disappearances or deaths? What if historical dark ages were not political or economic in origin, but the aftermath of Black Phillip manifestations? We may be approaching such a culmination now. Consider what you've learned, consider the pattern, consider the systematic removal of evidence, the disappearances of researchers, the accelerating frequency of manifestations. This is not coincidence. This is not mass delusion. This is something ancient and patient, moving through human history with purpose. And now you know. Now you've heard the whispers that others tried to silence. You've seen the pattern they tried to obscure. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Those who search too deeply often disappear. Those who speak too loudly often fall silent. Yet the truth demands to be known, even at great cost. If you've read this far, you're already part of the pattern. You've already opened yourself to awareness that can't be undone. Pay attention to your dreams in the coming weeks. Many who investigate this phenomenon report similar nightmares: a clearing in dark woods, a black figure with horns, a whispered offer. If these dreams come, be careful what you agree to. Be careful what you promise. Watch for black goats in unusual places. Notice if they seem to notice you back. Be wary of sudden opportunities that seem too perfect, of strangers who know too much about your desires. Most importantly, share this information, but do so carefully. Those who compile all available information in one place become targets, as Cavendish, Marsh, and others discovered. Spread fragments, not complete accounts. Keep copies in different locations. Trust no single storage method. The entity known as Black Phillip has existed for centuries, adopting various names in different cultures: Black Phillip, Le Bouc Noir, the Black One of the Woods, he who walks behind the rose. The manifestation changes, but the essence remains. It offers what you most desire in exchange for what you cannot afford to lose, and it's getting closer. If you've followed this account to its conclusion, you may already feel it, the sense of being watched, the feeling that something is paying attention to your attention. This is not paranoia. This is awareness. Type, "I hear you" whispering in the comments if you've read this far, not for engagement metrics, but as acknowledgement between those who know. Find each other, share what you learn, build the complete picture that others have tried to fragment. The cycle is accelerating. The next manifestation is coming sooner than historical patterns would predict. The barriers are thinning, and now you're part of it. Observer, participant, potential witness to whatever comes next. Listen carefully in quiet moments. Watch the shadows in the corners of rooms. Pay attention to animals' reactions to empty spaces. These are the early warnings. Black Phillip has never been fiction. The film merely borrowed a fraction of a truth too dangerous to tell in full. The real story is still unfolding, written in disappearances, in destroyed research, in the systematic erasure of evidence, and in the increasing frequency of a distinctive black goat, seen standing where no goat should stand, watching with eyes that understand too much, watching perhaps for you.